Good morning, all. In yesterday's class, we learned that Prashant returned home, and when he was returning to the home, he saw the devastation on the way. There were the dead bodies of the human beings as well as of the animals which were floating on the water. And anyhow, he reached at the village and met his family at the Red Cross Society. Today's explanation I'm going to start from page number 40. Next morning, in the Red Cross Society, when he saw the condition, he was very much depressed and he decided to get a grip over himself. Means uh, he was thinking that he would take the step forward. He sensed a deadly grief settling upon 2500 strong crowd in the shelter. Means the huge crowd of around 2500 people in the shelter who were full of sadness as they had lost everything in the storm. 86 people had been killed by that cyclone, and they had been at the shelter for the last 4 days, and they had been eating only raw coconuts, but now these were the insufficient for the large number of people. Now Prashant was thinking that he has to do something for that. He was very young, and at the age of 19 he decided to lead the crowd, and he formed a group of the villagers including the elders and the young people. They planned to force the local merchant to give them the stock of grain and rice to feed the people. After that, the group went to the merchant and get the food for that crowd. No one was bothered by the fact that the rice was getting rotten because they were starved and were ready to eat even the rotting rice. Means when they were returning with that rice has become rotten. And but everybody, nobody complained about it, and everybody consumed the rice as it is because everyone was hungry over there. After that, the broken branches of the trees were used to kindle a fire as they were wet. Burning a fire was a very difficult task, and it was the slow fire, but they managed to cook the rice on it. And after that, everybody took that meal. And the second task of the group was to clean the shelter. They removed the garbage, extra waste, dead bodies, and the injuries. Now it was the fifth day. Then a military helicopter it flew over the shelter and dropped food parcels. It did not return later, but they needed food for only one day. That food was not enough, so the youth in the crowd gathered empty utensils. Utensils means burtan. The children were made to lie in the sand with the utensils on their stomachs to indicate to the passing helicopters that they needed food. This was the just indication for the helicopters. In this way, the helicopters got the message and returned with the food and the other necessities for the crowd at the shelter. After that, Prashant he observed that a large number of children had been orphaned, and Prashant put together under a polythene sheet. Means he made a sort of tent, and in that he gathered all those orphan children. The women in the shelter were also became widow, and after that the it was the duty of the women to look after the children and the men to arrange the food for every. But the sadness of children and women in the shelter was growing with each passing day. Prashant requested to work in the NGO called Food for Work. In order to keep the children busy, he organized sports event for them, and he took help of the other volunteers to help the widows and the orphans to return to their normal lives. And the government has proposed to set up a separate institution for the widows and the orphans, but this proposal was successfully rejected by the Prashant because he thought that these separate institutions would neither help the orphan children and nor would they be beneficial for the widow. So these volunteers wanted to settle that orphan children and the widows in the foster families where they would get the love and security. And after the 6 months of the disaster, Prashant has come out the grief of losing his mother, because now he was busy in helping the others that he forgot his pain. All the widows and the orphans looked up to him in their time of grief, and so he learned to come out of this darkness and learned smile.